So this book is called I Am Earth's Keeper. It was actually written by me and illustrated by Giuliano Ferri, who is a fantastic illustrator from Italy. Unfortunately, I've never met Giuliano in person, but I've had such a beautiful sense of his soul from seeing the art that he contributes to this book. I do want to mention up front that the book is dedicated on my part to David Burks and David Knowles, who are two very important Davids in my life. It was actually a portrait or a picture taken by David Knowles that actually inspired this book. And Giuliano dedicates this book to his daughter Alice and her deep love of nature. I slipped from my bed and grabbed my favorite oar. We tiptoe quite silently out the back door. My kayak slides slippery from mud into lake. Great mother sun's up, but not fully awake. We row to the middle, surveying this land. The frogs swim beside us, a hidden jazz band. Friends who are listening to the book, when you read the book, be sure that you watch for all of the illustrations and especially for the special animal friends that are in this book. The illustrator did a great job of showing them, and they pop in and out of the story. Sun slips above clouds and everything's changed. Land and sky flip and my view's rearranged. Sky is up, water's down, or so I've been told, but clouds are above me. They're circles of gold. Let's pull back from the story just a minute to look at what's happening in this image. Maybe you've been out near a body of water at sunrise or at sunset when you have this amazing feeling that the sun is actually a reflection in the image of the water. And this is what's happening for our narrator, the little boy in the story. He's out on his kayak, the sun is rising, and what he sees is a perfect image, a mirror image. And so all of a sudden he's wondering, is the sky up or down? Miss Pond's upside down. Is Sir Sky here or there? Can I fly through the clouds, chasing bass, racing bear? Horizon's a mirror, his colors so loud, I could jump from my boat and land inside a cloud. Will I meet Sister Bird or greet brave brother Fish? Will I bump into Star or tell Gator my wish? One of my favorite illustrations on this page is actually that hidden little gator. If you're looking down in the corner, you can see the bold gator down there. And then we also have another animal friend up in the upper left-hand corner. A bear is watching this story. Today, like old beaver, I'll bravely jump in, break right through the clouds, feel the breeze on my skin. All glory above me and glory below. Is heaven around me? Oh, when will I know? Today, for this moment, I rest and I think. I float, looking up, then I flip, but don't sink. Above me is hawk, and below me is carp. We all dance together as wind plays her harp. Friends, let's think about that idea of wind playing a harp. Have you ever been outside on a very windy day? If you close your eyes and listen to the sound of the wind in the trees or what's happening because of the force of the wind, it creates a music all its own. That's what we mean by wind playing her harp. The clouds paint their picture and tell me their tale. The story repeats, yet will never grow stale. For ours is a kingdom that needs love and care. Belonging together's a gift that we share. Each mammal and bird, every river and stream, and me as their partner, we make a great team. Our mission's to honor this kingdom of gold, to treasure and love her, but loosen our hold. Olivia, I'm going to ask you a question. What does it mean to have a mission?
A mission means you have a duty or a goal that you're trying to reach.
Absolutely. So friends, this mission to honor the earth is what our friend in the story who's narrating is talking about. I climb through the clouds, back up into my perch. It's time you get home now, calls old brother Birch. You've had your adventure. He rustles his leaves. Your work now awaits you. I roll up my sleeves. Old brother Birch, if you've never seen a birch tree before, you'll see some on the pictures right here. He's a very wise creature in this story, and he's telling our narrator friend that it's time for him to get to his mission. Tomorrow we'll come back, then maybe I'll know. Our answer's above me or somewhere below. For now, I can't guess, but each day I will try. If I stay in our boat, I won't learn how to fly. If I stay in our boat, I'll miss life's awesome dance. So I'll paddle and swim, taking every big chance. I love that when the narrator on this page is talking about learning how to fly, which really in this story means he's taking a risk. He's jumping into nature and jumping into the water. We have these beautiful geese flying overhead, and the adult in the boat with him, probably his dad, is pointing out the geese to him. Today, when you wake, you've a promise to keep. Explore your own kingdom. Take each giant leap. Our world is a gift, one to treasure and share. We each play a part every day in her care. Love her, know her, protect her, grow her. You can see in the story, friends, that the narrator, our boy, he's looking very bold now. He's accepted this mission to care for the earth around him. And one of my favorite things on these two pages is the little creatures that we see, the mother fox with her little babies, and that very bold snail climbing the reed in the picture.
I love those foxes. They're so cute.
Yeah, they are so adorable, aren't they? All curled up together. Oh, let's go back. You might plant a tree, bike, or hike where you go, and buy less, recycle. Let birds and bees grow. When we limit our footprints, we help our earth thrive. Let's plant and sustain so we'll keep her alive. Let's talk for a minute, Olivia, just about that idea. What does the words limit our footprint? What does that mean to you when we limit our footprint?
What that means to me is my understanding of it. Ways that we can be on Earth without leaving things behind, like not littering, or when we go for a hike, not crushing branches as we walk.
Absolutely. I recently learned from someone, I'm learning how to do some bird watching, and I learned that if you're in the wild and you see bird feathers, you should actually not pick them up and take them with you, but rather leave them, because those are part of the natural habitat. And some other creature or a bird itself might actually use those feathers for their nesting. So those are great examples of not leaving a footprint. Each morning, the artist sets out to create. Walk with care, love, and cherish. Your journey awaits. This is the end of our story, but it's actually just the beginning of the journey. And we know now that our friend who went out on this journey in the morning and had the sky flip upside down and interacted with all the creatures around him, he may be going home, but he's going back out to care for our world. And that's what it means to be Earth's keeper. I hope you enjoyed this story.
Thank you very much, Lisa. That was beautiful. Lisa, I have some questions for you.
Yes.
So for Earth Day, how do you celebrate Earth Day, and how do your family celebrate Earth Day? I'm just wondering if we can give some ideas for all of our friends joining us on different ways that they can celebrate Earth Day today.
Yeah, actually, I was interested to learn that Earth Day wasn't officially proclaimed until the 1970s. So it's a concept that's been around for a long time, but that's when we began to officially celebrate it, and we celebrate it on April 22nd. But of course, for me, every day is Earth Day, and so I think that it's really wonderful, though, that we have this day when we can kind of pause collectively and really think about what it means to, to cherish and care for our earth. And so now that it's actually just my husband and I have grown children and now grandchildren as well. So I love to kind of point out to my family, Earth Day is coming, and, be celebrating it for the entire month of April. But I also love the idea that we need to make small actions every day. And so when thinking about how to celebrate Earth Day as a family, I put together just a few ideas of some things that you might do, especially today. So one thing that we know in caring for the earth is that we want to definitely limit our use of things like electricity and power. And one of the best ways to do that, I think, is by just going outside and playing. So today might be a day where you decide intentionally, let's flip off all the lights in the house and everything that has a power plug. Let's unplug it today. And let's take a couple of hours to actually go outside and to celebrate being out in nature. And maybe you might even do this in the evening, this evening, when it's actually getting a little darker, in a way that's safe. Maybe you can experiment with what happens when we go out into nature in the evening, unplugged. Another thing that I think we all know about caring for creation is that we definitely want to watch our intake of water. And so for those of us that love a good, nice long hot shower, or, love watering our plant friends or whatever, Earth Day might be a day when you actually kind of pay attention to the water consumption that you use. Maybe today is the day that you actually time your shower, or that everybody in the house actually, maybe if you don't already have a water bottle, maybe you get one today. And then that becomes your special bottle that you use for the rest of the year. But today might be a good day on Earth Day to actually pay attention to, am I turning off the sink as I'm washing my hands? Or am I, trying to wear my clothes maybe once or twice more before I wash them in the laundry? How are we using water in our homes? I think Earth Day is a wonderful day to celebrate with our pet friends. I don't have any pets at home, but I have grandchildren, grand puppies, and grand kittens. And so on Earth Day, I actually like to give them a little shout out because those animal friends are definitely friends of our family and members of our family. And so maybe today might be a great day to give your cat or your dog an extra hug. Or if you feed birds outside, to maybe give them a little extra treat. Or even if you don't own any animals, just to be really cognizant when you go outside today of the animals that you might encounter on this Earth Day. It's also a great time of the year to begin growing your garden. I live in the city, and so it's very hard for me to have like a garden. Like I can't really plant corn, but I can do container gardens at my house. And so if you want to start a garden, it's as easy as maybe taking a little milk carton that you might already have in your house and actually planting some seeds into that garden, that carton. And that could be something that you can continue to watch over the weeks ahead. If you have little ones, planting a garden is a really great way to kind of talk about the cycle of life. And it's kind of a perennial homeschooling or school project to plant seeds and to see what happens with them. But April 22nd is a great day to begin to plant your garden. And if you don't have seeds, don't worry. You can get online maybe and order some seeds, or head down to your local nature store and pick up a packet of seeds. And then I just want to mention the last thing, which is that protecting bees and butterflies is so important. A lot of times we can be afraid, particularly of bees. They sting like their friends, hornets and wasps, but typically they won't sting unless they're actually agitated. And so one thing that you might consider doing this Earth Day is creating a little bit of a bee and butterfly habitat in the area that you live in. If you're in an area that has landscaping, you can do some research for plants that actually will propagate bees and butterflies and encourage them to come and be where you live. We redid some of our landscaping this year at our home to make it more drought resistant. And one of my favorite features of it is that our landscape architect really taught us about plants that attract bees and butterflies. So now when I go out into my front little garden, actually can interact a lot with my bee and butterfly friends out there. And it's actually really changed my my whole idea about bees and butterflies, they're very industrious, they're always working. And it's so wonderful to actually kind of from a safe distance observe them in the way that they're cherishing the earth. So those are just a few ideas for Earth Day.
Those are awesome. Thank you so much. Those are a lot of really helpful, practical ideas that we can do this.
Yeah.
My next question is, this book is called I Am Earth's Keeper, and it's about the boy, who's learning about what it means to be Earth's keeper. Anyway, would you be willing to talk about what it means to be Earth's keeper and some practical ways we can do that?
Yeah, we just talked a little bit about some things that are sort of perennial ideas that we can use all year long. And this list has a few more. I think for me, one connection that I really made when I was writing this book and really delving into this topic is the connection, not just between, doing something like recycling, which I think is very important, but the importance of actually buying or consuming less. One thing that's very prevalent in our society these days is, and I just mentioned it too, the ability to hop online and order something. And so I think it's really great for us as families to really think about how what we consume matters to the world around us, how our decisions in terms of what we're purchasing, whether that be food from local sources or clothes maybe sewn in our area, hand goods. If we want a new rug, for example, we might head to the farmer's market where there's somebody that actually has made that rug. So we can make important decisions. I'm not saying we should never buy anything. That's not a realistic idea, but we should really be more thoughtful, I think, about the things that we buy and try to connect them as much with the source that's actually creating that item. I mentioned it at the outset, and I think one of the greatest messages of this book is that it happens out in nature. This story is not about a dad, going on YouTube and watching a video of the sunrise with his child. It's actually about them going out into nature and experiencing it. And, maybe you don't have a pond near you where you can take a kayak out, but every one of us lives someplace with a door where we can actually go outside and take a walk. And I think one of the greatest gifts of being Earth's keeper is actually recognizing that Earth is such a gift to us, and that the more time that we spend out in nature, the more we long to compassionately care for our Earth, because it's just such a huge gift. And I guess it leads to the last thing, which is as people of faith, I think one of the greatest responsibilities that we have is to pray for our world, for our Earth, for the natural creatures in our Earth. Pray in thanksgiving to God for this beautiful creation all around us, but then also pray for our neighbors. There are so many in our world who go without. We know when we turn on the news that we see people who go without material goods, but even without food and clean water. And so how can we be united with those folks in prayer to live in solidarity with them, so that we recognize that being Earth's keeper is also being one another's keeper and caring for those who live in the world around us. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's really interesting. As you're talking about, as people of faith, it's our responsibility to pray for our neighbors. It's making me think that one of the things you mentioned about I Am Earth's Keeper is that it's based off of St. Francis's poem. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that and some other inspirational people who were also Earth's keepers.
Yes. So this beautiful poem that I'm so inspired by, it's called Canticle of the Sun, or Canticle of Creation. It was written by St. Francis of Assisi in 1225. It's really a song of praise. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I hope you'll, as immediately after this webinar ends, please go look it up online. You can actually find it in so many great places online. It's just sort of the epic song of praise to God, the creator, and to the world around us. And in the poem, in the canticle, the song, Francis actually speaks of brother sun and sister moon, and he repeatedly uses the words, praise be to you. He's praising the creator, but he's also praising these natural elements of the world around us. And I think the word is anthropomorphizes. He actually addresses natural creation, brother sun, sister moon. And so you see me in the book making my attempt to do this For example, old brother birch, the talking tree. When we recognize that the tree may not actually talk to us with the words that we understand, but it can definitely communicate to us. St. Francis, that idea of praise be to you, it's actually the inspiration for Laudato Si, which is Pope Francis's wonderful environmental encyclical that came out in 2015. And he took those words, Laudato Si, from that phrase in the Canticle of the Sun, praise be to you. And it's really Pope Francis's teachings about how, to care for natural creation around us, but also to care for our brothers and sisters in need around the world. Those two ideas are really tied together. So I think that's where I would start as an example. But really, if we turn to scripture, we find so many there are way too many to mention, but most of us have read the Genesis story of creation, and we know that God placed Adam and Eve in the garden. It's a beautiful symbolism of humans having been created to really care for a world that already existed before we came into being, and that God placed them as stewards. And you go on through scripture and we meet Noah, who had the ark and was called to care for animals. I really would say that Jesus and his followers were, in my mind, true environmentalists. They walked everywhere. You might periodically find Jesus riding on the back of a mule, but typically he and his followers are walking. And so many of the great scenes in the Bible relate to Jesus being out in nature. We have the Sermon on the Mount, for example, where Jesus proclaimed the good news to this masses of people. And I actually had the great gift of going to the Holy Land and praying in the area where that happened. And it's this beautiful mountainside place with a view of the Sea of Galilee spread out in front of it. You can't help but think about Jesus in that place, speaking of the love of his Father with nature all around. So beautiful. We also mentioned St. Francis of Assisi, but I'd like to mention one of my other favorite saints. And actually, I'll say of St. Francis that in 1979, I believe it was, somewhere in the 70s, St. John Paul II, who was the Pope at that time, actually proclaimed St. Francis of Assisi the patron saint of ecology. So he gave him as an example for those of us who are concerned with the natural world around us. But another person who's a saint who's been proclaimed as a saint of environmentalism is St. Kateri Tekakwitha. And if you don't know her, she's an indigenous woman who was born in 1656 in the area that's now upstate New York. She was a typical young indigenous woman who is often involved in daily tasks like carrying water for her family. So she went down to the spring near the home that she lived in and brought water back to her family. And because she was out in nature so much during the day and doing her work outside, out of doors, she crafted small crosses and placed them along her daily walking paths so that as she was going by her daily chores, she would pass those crosses and pray out in nature. I think it's a really wonderful example of the fact that we're all so busy, but being out in nature can give us a chance, even if we're doing work, to actually give thanks to God for this beautiful world around us. And I did want to mention some modern day wonderful role models. There's an organization called the Laudato Si Advocates. You can learn about it through the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. And these are folks just like you and I who have decided to take a pledge to care for the world around them and then to be advocates for the world. And so they have many great programs, and you can actually join this and become a Laudato Si advocate as well. I'm going to be one when I grow up.
That's really interesting. I certainly learned a lot from that conversation. Where can we find more about the Laudato Si advocates?
If you go to Google and just do a search for it, that's the best place to find it. There's great information on usccb.org, which is the Conference of the United States Catholic Bishops website, and they've got information right there. And I will say it's a good chance to say, if anybody has questions about anything that I've brought up, you can always definitely feel free to send me an email. My email address is lisahendey@gmail.com. And I know that over at Paraclete Press, they've got so many great resources for this on their website as well.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Lisa. This has been a great conversation, and I'm so glad that we can talk about Earth Day together. Before we finish up this webinar, I know you had mentioned that you had a special prayer that you wanted to pray from that same organization.
Let's do that. And I'll just say, if you're somebody who's watching this, I hope that you have a beautiful Earth Day, that it's the start of Earth Year for you and the start of maybe a new way of living your life. When you live this way, it will change the way you live your life. And it's really considering your great blessings with gratitude, which who doesn't want to live that way every day? I think we all need it so much. And then I do want to thank Paraclete Press for not only the webinar today, but for their incredible support of my work. It's one of my favorite publishers to read in terms of being a lover of books. Every Paraclete book I've ever picked up is just so beautiful. And I'm very honored to have my books published by Paraclete. And I do want to say too, that if you're somebody who leads a group, whether it's an adult group or a group of children, and you'd like to have somebody come and visit you either in person or virtually, you can reach out to me. I would love to come read this book to you and those gathered with you. So let's just gather our hearts now and give ourselves over to the creator of all good as we share this prayer together. God of all creation, how splendid and majestic is the world you created. It reveals your glory. It teaches us about you. When you made us in your image, you gave us this command: care for the world and for all the creatures in it, for this is our common home. Yet your holy creation cries out for our home is burdened and laid waste, scorched and scarred. Come among us that we might remember our interdependence. Let us see the face of your Son in those who suffer from the destruction of our common home. Help us to be stewards who honor you in the world you have made for the good of all creation and for future generations. May your justice reign forever. Amen.
Amen. Lisa, thank you so much. Happy Earth Day, everybody, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.